What's up, guys? It's Derrick once again with Wrestling IQ and with RapnWrestle Podcast, bringing you another special episode. This time, talking to Headbanger Mosh, aka Chaz Warrington. You know him from our childhood, being a part of the famous Headbanger Tag Team with Thrasher. This was another special episode that I wanted to drop on, both streaming platforms. So, definitely make sure you check out Wrestling IQ 101 at Wrestling IQ 101 and Rap and Wrestle at Rap and Wrestle. Check it out on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Also, check it out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, anywhere you get your streaming. And, check out the episode. Here it goes. Today, a very special day. Someone you may know, one of the most prestigious tag teams in WWE, Headbanger Mosh, aka Chaz Warrington. How you doing today, sir?
I am doing tremendous. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm glad to have you on. Like I said to you earlier, how's everything been going for you lately? And just dealing with all this that's going on, pandemic, COVID, all that stuff. How have you been personally?
Personally, been fine. I don't know. I'm not one of those people that are freaked out by it. I'm just being smart and, you know, not being stupid and, licking toilet seats and then licking my fingers. So just being smart about it. It is what it is. It's just one of these things where, in my mind, there's a silver lining in everything. And you got to figure out, a way to you either adapt or you become extinct. So, so it's all good. How about you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Same thing. Just playing it safe. I think that's really all you can do.
Yeah.
Nowadays with this, that's it. So just take care of yourself. Be smart, like you said. I haven't been licking any toilet seats, so
That's a
I'm
good
doing good too. Yeah, for real.
I kind of highly recommend not doing that, whether it's a pandemic or not. So, unless you got some
Yeah,
really weird fetish, go ahead, knock yourself out.
yeah, totally agree with that. Something interesting. You're from New Jersey, right?
Yes, right outside Philly, South Jersey.
Nice. I'm up in Central Jersey. Around Rutgers University area.
Okay, my best friend went to Rutgers. Yeah.
Me too. So that's
Okay.
perfect. Look, we get the connections there. Something I'm interested in because right now in Jersey, Jersey is like very saturated when it comes to like independent wrestling and wrestling like that. So kind of like when you were getting started, how was the wrestling scene in New Jersey? Was it as packed as it is now, or was it guys just starting up?
I think it was pretty busy. When I first started, I was very fortunate to where Glenn had been, around for a couple of years before we started tagging. So I was fortunate enough to, that he knew people. So we did a lot with, Larry ran shows once a month down at the Monster Factory. And then we did a lot with Dennis Carluzzo. But, to be honest with you, we weren't, Glenn was around Jersey a lot more than I was because I started in June of 93. That next April, Glenn and I took off and went to Memphis. So for me, I didn't do a whole lot. I probably did more, during like when Glenn was hurt, doing some independence on my own. I probably did more during then than actually before we actually went to WWF.
Oh wow! Oh man, yeah. And I know it's very filled now, and I know there's a lot of history when it comes to wrestling, and when Jersey, Philly, New York is like all combined in that whole area. When you were first starting, you were younger. What was it that drew you and attracted you to actually wanting to be in wrestling?
Well, I watched it growing up. I was a fan. Like I said, my best friend and I, we used to jump on the speed line and head over to Philly to go over to the Spectrum to watch once a month. We go over there. So, I was always a fan growing up watching it, and actually just went to the Route 30 Flea Mart, which was about 10, 15 minutes from my house in Clementon. And every Saturday night, not every Saturday night, but like once a month, the big truck would be out front. It said Pro Wrestling Saturday Night. So one night I had nothing to do, and I went in, I checked it out, and then Glenn and I knew of each other from high school because our high schools wrestled each other. So we started talking and chatting, and Like, oh, you should come try it out. And I figured, what the hell? It could be fun, something different to try. Never, ever, ever expecting it to, get to where it went. So it was kind of one of those things where I it was all timing. Walked in, right place, right time, had a tryout down at the Monster Factory, and Larry didn't take everyone. I think when I did my tryout, there was 5 or 6 other people there. He took 2 of us. So it's not like one of those things where he took everyone to just take your money. If he didn't think you had any shot of making it, he wouldn't take you at all. Because the last thing he wants is someone going in there and being awful and saying, I trained down at the Monster Factory, because, that's not good for the school. So for me, it was kind of just, I think it was just one of those things that may have just been meant to be, because everything kind of fell into step for me. It was kind of just one of those things where it just rolled and rolled and rolled.
Yeah, and you talked about the Monster Factory, and when you first started training, like how was it adjusting to actually doing the things to actually be a professional wrestler?
Well, that was one of the things. Is when I first went down there, I was still wrestling in junior college. I was 180 pounds, something like that.
Oh man.
And I said, one of the things I said to Glenn was, I got to put weight on before I get in the ring, because Glenn was 240 at that point, and all the guys were big. And he goes, no, he goes, the best time to learn is now, as you put weight on. He goes, if you just come here 3 months later and you're 50 pounds heavier, then it's going to be harder to learn how to do everything. So learn it as you go. So for me, it wasn't, I'm athletic. So it's funny. I joke all the time now, because I used to be able to do, when I jumped into a pool, I used to do a full flip and jump and land feet first. Now I go halfway, I land flat on my back. I just can't get all the way over anymore. It's just a mental thing. But it wasn't the hardest part about it was just learning the psychology of how to, call a match and to have a good storyline in a match. But as far as doing everything, it kind of came, I guess, natural, because, I do have a little bit of athletic ability. So
I think it's a little bit more than a little bit. So for you guys, how did the call to, being in the WWF at the time, like how did that all come about for you guys?
Well, what happened was we were going up. Glenn was actually doing it before me, but we had been going up and doing jobs for doing enhancement work, jobs, or we used to be called jobbers, and then they called enhancement or whatever it is, extras. So we were doing that. Glenn was doing it way before me, and then obviously I was doing it. So we had been going up there for 3 years. Actually, my first probably 6 matches were in a WWF ring before I had my first, I guess, real match. So Vince kind of knew who we were. Everyone up there knew us. All the guys knew us. And then Cornette, when Smoky Mountain shut down, Cornette was working up there, and he walked into Vince's office and said, "Hey, I got these 2 guys. I'd like to bring them in, have you take a look at them, give them a dark match or something." And Vince said, "Well, tell me about them." So he goes, "Oh, well, he goes, you've seen them before." He goes, Chaz and Glenn, he goes, they've wrestled up here as the Spiders. They've been up here a lot. He's like, "Oh yeah." He goes, "I know those guys." And at the time they were doing a part-time contract. They had these part-time deals for certain guys because they wanted the matches to be a little more competitive. So what they did, they hired like 10 of us. And the idea was for us to win a couple of matches, but then just to have competitive matches with all the superstars, Shawn, Bret, Stone Cold at the time. And so Vince goes, "Oh, just put them on the part-time contract then, and we'll see what happens." So we started out with that first contract, and out of all the part-time guys, we were the only 2 that got signed to a full-time deal at the time.
Oh, wow. So do you remember like when you got called up, like your first match? I know I was looking and I saw like, I don't know how this like slipped me, but I saw you had a match with like Papa Shango, and I was like, when did this happen? Like, how did that happen?
That was actually my second match.
The second match, okay.
So here's what happened. Is they did a lot of TVs in the Northeast. WWF was always running in the Northeast. So that's when they were doing the TV tapings for Superstars and WWF Challenge and Wrestling Challenge, whatever it was called. So Glenn said to me, "Hey, WWF's coming into town, and they always, they call Larry, and he sends some guys up there to go up, to do enhancement matches, do jobs." And I said to him, I was in the ring 3 weeks, training 3 weeks. That was it. And I said to him, "I'm not ready to do that. I don't know what the hell I'm doing." He's like, "They won't use you. It's no big deal. You see your face. maybe next time you go up, they'll use you, but it's a paycheck, and that's how you got to look at it. So I'm like, fine. So they roll the big whiteboard out. Tony Gurria comes out, rolls the big whiteboard out, and there it was. Chaz Ware versus Adam Bomb. And I went,
oh man,
oh shit. I looked at him, I thought they weren't going to use me. He goes, I don't know what to tell you, kid. He goes, you're making some money tonight. So that was the first night. And then the second night, they rolled out the board again, and there was my name with Papa Shango. So that was my set. And at that point, again, I was only in the ring for 3 weeks, and I was kind of dabbling. I had no clue at that point. Again, to me, it was just, let me get in there. This could be fun. It could be a cool hobby. After that very first night, walking down that ring, and I walked out, and I'm like, this is what I want to do. That's awesome. I was like, this is what I want to do. Yeah, Papa Shango was my second match, and there's a great story with that. So he said to me, he goes, hey, do you know how to throw a punch? Like, yeah, I hit you over here somewhere. And I'm like, pointing at my neck. And he's like, yeah, but do you know how to throw a punch? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, so throw a punch. I just stood there looking at him. He goes, so throw a punch. I go, oh, you want me to punch you right now? And he's like, yeah. He goes, I want to see how you throw a punch. I'm like, all right. I punched him so hard in the jaw. He's standing there like this, and he turns around and looks at me. He goes, kid, tonight you're going to kick. I'm like, okay. So it was WrestleMania about, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. We went out to California, and we were doing the WrestleCon thing, and he was there. And, because we were obviously up there together when he was doing, Godfather and Kama and, the stuff with the Nation. But at that point, I never told him that story. I never told him like that was my second match ever. So we were sitting there, and I walked over to him and I told him it. And he goes, are you kidding me? And he goes, that was you? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, I tell that story all the time of the kid that punched me so hard in the jaw. I told him he was going to throw a kick. So he actually remembered it. And then I pulled it up on YouTube, and we sat there and watched it together. It was awesome.
Oh man, see, that's great. That's definitely great. Now, you and Thrasher, you were the spiders, you were the flying nuns.
Yep.
And then, you finally found success when you guys became the Headbangers. How did you go through all these gimmicks? Like, how did each one individually start?
Well, Glenn was wrestling as the Spider at first.
Yeah.
So when we started tagging, we just naturally went with that because in the Northeast, that his Spider character was already kind of known, so it made it a little bit easier for us to get booked. Then we went to Memphis, USWA. We were there for a while. Then we went to Arkansas with Burt Prentice with Ozark Mountain. We were there for a little while as the Spiders. And then meanwhile, Ricky Morton, Robert Gibbs and the Rock and Roll Express, Tracy Smothers was coming in and out, and they were with Smoky Mountain. So we started giving them tapes, and then they started talking to Cornette about us. And then Cornette knew Glenn from some of the indies because Cornette used to do a lot with Carluzzo up north. So, so Cornette got wind of us and wanted to bring us in, but he called us up and he said, hey, I would like to bring you guys in. He goes, but I don't like the masks. He goes, I hate masks. Yeah. He goes, I don't like masked wrestlers. So we're like, we just want to work. We just want to come there. We know it's more exposure. And so we just want to come. So he's the one who came up with the headbanger gimmick, the idea. He said, and this is going to sound crazy. He goes, I was at a dancing concert. He goes, and these guys were slam dancing. There was mosh pits. They were spitting on each other. They were beating the shit out of each other. Guys were wearing makeups or wearing dresses. He goes, never seen anything like it. He goes, but he goes, I think the idea that I have could work for you guys with, you have that Northeast attitude and stuff like that. And I knew exactly what he was talking about because over in Philly, I used to go to the old bank. I used to go over there. I used to go to the underground. So I used to go to all of that stuff. So I knew exactly what I was talking about. So he gave us the idea. We kind of ran with it, and it was just an idea. And we took it to an extreme that Cornette never thought we were really going to take it to. So he gave us the idea, we ran with it. And then when we signed our part-time deal with WWF, we went in as the Headbangers, and then Vince changed it to the Flying Nuns to try something else. And then, it wasn't working. And so he switched us back to the Headbangers.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great story. That's wild. I was going to ask too, I was going to say, do you feel like, being the Headbangers was a little bit of that already a part of you guys, or did you guys become more of that as you went on with the role?
I think a part of it was, I think a lot of me was in that already because again, I was familiar with, with dancing, doing the lawnmower and, you had to kick your arms and legs to make space in the mosh pit. So, but for Glenn, it was new. But, again, him and I just kind of, he started watching more stuff and we just started adapting more and more to, and then kind of just building it into us. But our personalities came out. Like, for instance, when, you'll see us making fun of somebody or we're joking around, or there was one time Vince had us on live TV. It was a live interview. We were exhausted because we were out the entire night before. I think we got 45 minutes of sleep. And Vince on live TV looks at us and he goes, "What's wrong with you guys?" We're like, "Vince, we're out all night. We're exhausted. We just want to go out to the ring, do our thing, and then come back here and then go back out and party all over again. Like, that's what we want to do." So, and Vince, and we got done. Vince loved it. He was like, "Just be you." So a lot of it is us. It's just how it comes out.
Yeah, true. Now, one of the most memorable catchphrases, I think you think of a lot of catchphrases throughout the history of wrestling, and real men wear skirts. I think it's one of those most memorable ones that you could think of. Like, who came up with that catchphrase, and how does it feel like to just see that, like, just on signs in the crowd and put on like shirts for you guys?
Well, what happened is actually how the whole skirts came up was again, we were in Smoky Mountain. The first couple of matches we had, we didn't really know what to expect. We didn't really know, where it was going to go. So we wore shorts. We showed up at TV. Cornette handed me a Slayer t-shirt. He gave Glenn a Metallica shirt. And I think I had work boots on and Glenn wore like high top sneakers. So that's what we wore. So that's what we were wearing. And eventually we were talking. I said to Glenn, I go, we got to change up. We got to change up the look. I said, because we're dressing like PG-13. That's what Wolfie and them, and and they were big in Memphis and Tennessee. So they were known. I'm like, so we don't want to be knockoffs of them. So we got to figure something out. So we went to a thrift store and we were walking around, and I walked down the girls' aisle and I pulled out a skirt and I put it on and I walked around, and Glenn looks at me. He goes, "What are you doing?" I go, "We're buying skirts." And he goes, "I'm not wearing a skirt." I go, "Buy one skirt." I go, "And let's see what happens." So I convinced him to buy a skirt. We went out to the ring that night. We got so much heat from the crowd. It was unbelievable. We walked in the back. Cornette goes, "Where did you buy those? Where'd you get those from?" I'm like, "The thrift store." He handed us each $20 and he said, "Go buy more. You're wearing skirts." So that's how the skirts came to be. So that they just took off. So what happened is we used to have the the suitcases with our gear in them. We had the hardback ones. And we'd go to like Hot Topic to buy t-shirts and stuff like that. And there were stickers. There was a sticker that said "Real Men Wear Skirts." So we took the sticker, we put it on the bag, and then we went to, when we were in WWF, we were doing a photo shoot for one of the Christmas catalogs or something with Santa, and one of the marketing guys were there. And he looked at the bag and he saw that and he goes, "That needs to be on your t-shirt." And we went, "Okay, so go get it done." And then that's when we came out with that first t-shirt. So again, the skirts just came from something. I was like, we need to be different. Real Men Wear Skirts came from us being in Hot Topic and seeing a bumper sticker and throwing it on our bag.
Oh man, that's crazy. And then you guys won the WWF WWE Tag Team titles in 1997. Did you guys kind of feel like that was like a sense of accomplishment? Like, hey, we finally reached our our pinnacle of being a tag team together?
I mean, yeah, you can't say no to that. I mean, it's to be looked at, and it was funny because that's when NWO was big. So that's when Kevin and Scott had the tag titles for WCW. So, the PWI magazines would come out, and when they did, everyone did it. You went right to the back to the ratings, to the rankings to see where you were ranked. And there we were, number 2. I mean, we were at that point, we were going to get higher than Scott and Kevin because they had had the belts for so long. And obviously they were, Kevin, Scott, and Kevin. But to look at that and be like, we're the number 2 tag team in the world. But the other side of it was for Vince to look at us and go, "Hey, these guys, I believe in these guys and they're going to draw money." And, so yeah, I mean, it was one of clearly, there's probably 3 things in my career that stand out the most. And obviously that's one of the top 3.
Yeah, definitely. You talked about, the Outsiders. They were the champs over in WCW. One of the biggest periods of professional wrestling is the Monday Night Wars. From the outside looking in, like it was amazing. But to actually be a part of it and working during that time, how was it to be involved in that? And, the rating wars and going back and forth.
Oh, it was amazing. First of all, once, the ratings, once that started happening, the money started coming in more. So obviously the financial side of it was amazing. But the better part was just in the locker room. Everyone in that locker room had the same goal. The goal was to beat WCW. It didn't matter if you were opening match, if you were mid card, if you were main event. Everyone knew their role in that locker room. Everyone got along. Everyone just wanted to help everyone else get better. So the atmosphere in there, I've never been in another locker room. I've never been in another position at any job or anything anywhere else where the whole mission was that one thing and everyone bought into it. And again, if I was opening match, I went out there and busted my ass to make the mid card and the main event work harder. If I was at the end of the show, I'd watch the first ones to make sure we didn't repeat anything, to see what they were doing so we can get better and better and better. And everyone would come over and help each other out. Hey, I saw this. Hey, I saw that. Why don't you try this? Why don't you do that? It was just a big family. And again, the entire goal of the entire locker room was beat WCW.
Oh, that's awesome. Since that time too, as well, there was a lot of focus on, tag team action. Do you feel like that has like diminished over the years? I know during that time period, there were a lot. There were the Godwins, Legion of Doom, you guys, New Age Outlaws. There were so many tag teams. And then do you feel like over the years, that like up till, present day, that's kind of like just diminished in wrestling in general?
Yeah, it seemed like Vince would use the tag titles to further single storylines. We won the tag belts because Stone Cold got hurt, but he was tag partners with Dude Love. It was like, and they put two individuals together for the tag belts, and then you always knew they were going to break up and then they were going to feud. I mean, it's just kind of how it went. So yeah, so it went down. Yeah. Again, I don't know if that was just Vince saying, "Hey, I see no real value in tag teams," or what it was, or if that was just his way of, maybe I don't know, hiring less people because you can have a tag team by throwing two guys together. I don't know, but yeah, it's a lot of the emphasis went away, which kind of sucks because tag team wrestling. I'm going to be biased because this is really all I know, or not really know, but all I really did. Well, it's more fun. You can do more stuff. When I do singles matches, I still have fun, but it's not as much fun as when Glenn and I are out there together, or like. Right now we're working a feud with this. We're working for this company called Atomic Revolutionary Wrestling up in Melbourne, and we're getting ready to work the Ascension with Connor and Victor.
Yeah.
Brought them in. So we're doing a big match with them on February 19th in Melbourne. And so it's going to be fun because, it's not just two guys being thrown together. It's an established team that we can go out there and really have fun with and really go.
Now, when you started with wrestling, do you feel like tag team wrestling, was that always like your goal, or did you all have any, aspirations of being a singles wrestler?
No, I didn't really have, when I first started, I didn't have aspirations for anything, zero expectations, because I never thought I was going to go anywhere. I thought, again, I didn't know much about, I guess, the indie scene, even when I first started and I got into it. The only thing I really knew growing up was WCW, NWA, and World Class Wrestling, and then obviously WWF. So when I saw this, when I would drive by and I'd see the van out front of Route 30 Mart, I was like, oh, I really had no idea. So when I went in and I saw it, I was like, oh wow, like I didn't know that existed really, because I wasn't, there wasn't the internet to follow stuff like there is now, and I was into it, but I wasn't that into it. That stuff wasn't on TV. They didn't have YouTube channels to go and watch all these other, independent guys. So I really had none. And it was just kind of one of those things. I was doing the job matches on TV. Then I did my first match down at school in September. Then I did one in October and then in November. And then in the meanwhile, Glenn had gotten hurt in there. He had a couple bulging discs in his back. And then when he came back in November, he was like thinking about it. And our body types were so similar. I mean, so similar when we were in the spider masks. His mom came up to me and had a full 15-minute conversation with me and had no idea it was me. She thought it was Glenn. So, you know, so that was actually tagging with me was actually his idea, is how it started.
Awesome.
At that point, Glenn, you know, Glenn down at the school, he was the man, he was the trainer. So it was like, how could I say no to that? There's no possible way I would have said no to that. I would have been a moron because of who Glenn was at the Monster Factory at that point.
Yeah, and look what it turned into, right? So, you know, I guess it was a wise decision on your part.
Yeah, it's like I said, my career, it's like everything that happened led to something else. It was almost just meant to be.
Yeah, facts. How was it, you know, when people talk about tag team wrestling and they, you know, just as humans, we love to categorize things. We love to say who's the best of this, the best of that. And, you know, when we talk about tag team wrestling, you know, Legion of Doom is always at the top of that list. How was it to be in the ring with those guys? And do you remember or have you gotten any advice from them on, you know, being a tag team?
I don't know about the advice side, but being in the ring with them that very first time, I'll never forget it. It was at the Manhattan Center. Glenn and I had been on the road doing house shows for about 10 days. We were going over every night. And we were like, this is amazing. Like we're winning, you know, we're getting some TV exposure. We're going to these towns. People know who we are. Like this is unbelievable. This is crazy. So we walk into the Manhattan Center and we see the run sheet and we look up at it and it says Headbangers versus LOD. And we went, oh shit. Well, that run was short-lived. It was their first night back before WrestleMania. So they hadn't been on TV for a while. So we're like, well, going to get squashed, but whatever, who cares? But they pulled us aside and they said, hey, he goes, you know, we had a long conversation with Vince. Vince is really high on you guys. He likes you. He thinks, you know, you guys are probably the future of tag team wrestling when it comes here, when it comes to WWF. So, you know, we're going to have a back and forth match tonight on Raw. He goes, and then it's going to be a double count out, a double DQ. And we're like, so you're not just going to squash us in like 35 seconds? We're like, no, we're going to go. We're going to have like a good 10 minutes. And we're like, whoa. We're like, and you're not beating us? They're like, no, but at the end, we'd like to hit one of you, you know, with the Doomsday device. And I was like, I'll take it. I'll take it all day long. Yeah. So, I mean, that, you know, that was great to be in the ring with them and then to have them tell us, you know, what Vince said. And then, you know, it was just great. And then, you know, hanging out with them in the back was always fun also. They're just great guys.
Yeah, I can only imagine. You know, then I know you said, you know, your goal was tag team wrestling. You know, you broke into, you know, you went to being a singles competitor for a little while when Thrasher got injured. Were you excited for that? And whose idea was it to start the beaver cleavage gimmick? I got to know that.
So tag teaming was fun because I don't think if I didn't tag, I don't know if I would have learned as much as I learned as fast as I learned. Because again, June of 93, I'm in the Monster Factory. July of 93, I'm in a WWF ring. April of 94, we pack up the car and move to Memphis with no idea of how long we're going to be there. And then I'm in the ring with, you know, Eddie Gilbert, Doug Gilbert, Jerry Lawler, Brian Christopher, Wildfire Tommy Rich. And then from there, you know, we're in the ring with Tracy Smothers and the Rock and Roll Express, the Heavenly Bodies. I mean, so it just progressed. So if we didn't start tagging, I would have never gotten that. And I probably would have never left Jersey. I probably would have just, when WWF was in town going through jobs, I probably would have never made it. So again, being with Glenn and having that opportunity was, you know, obviously life-changing. As far as beaver cleavage goes, so the funny part about that is the very first overseas tour I did, Jerry Briscoe collected all the passports. We were going over to Kuwait for 5 days. So he had the passports. My passport, I mean, hell, when I was in WWF, that was 97. I was 26. So my passport was from when I was like 23, 24. He looks at it and he goes, you look just like Leave It to Beaver. So from that point on, he called me the Beef. He would call me Beaver. He would call me Beaver. That's what he would call me. And then Glenn was hurt. He blew his knee out, and we had all that time off. And it was creative Vince Russo who came up with this whole Leave It to Beaver thing. And, because again, the whole, Briscoe calling me the Bee for so long, that's where it came from.
Wow. Amazing. That's one of the probably the one of the most memorable gimmicks I think that someone has had, just because it's so out there, and you got to remember that one.
You can't forget it when it's voted the worst gimmick of all time. So, but it's all good. I am not offended. I was on the Ellen show a couple weeks ago with that gimmick.
I heard. I was gonna ask you, how does it feel to be on the Ellen show and not even know you're on the Ellen show?
I had no idea I was on. I had friends texting me, "Hey, you're on the Ellen show today." I was like, "What are you talking about?"
That's amazing, man. That's a story to tell. So how did so with the Beaver cleavage role, and then you just went to being Chaz, like what was it in between? Was it you were unhappy with the gimmick, or they just wanted to change roles? Like what was it with that?
No, I had no problem with the gimmick at all. I mean, hell, the gimmick was going to be fun. I got to act like a goofball. My head was buried in boobs every night. Because the whole gimmick, they were insinuating I was having sex with my mother. So I mean, you can't beat that. I guess you could, but my head was buried in boobs. I'm acting like a goofball. But I only had the one match, and then they killed it off. But that's when they were getting a lot of heat. That's when Sable left, and she filed the sexual harassment suit.
Yeah.
Right around then is when Owen had his accident. So there was all this negative stuff coming. So they just killed it. Anything that had anything to do with anything controversial at that point, they just killed it off. And that's when they came up with this idea of you're just Chaz, a kid from Jersey, you're just there to have a good time. That's where that came from.
Hey, there we go. Do you think, because I know it's a little different nowadays. Do you think like something like that could be successful in today's wrestling? Because I know I've heard things, and the rumors of USA, they kind of want WWE to provide like more adult entertainment, I guess you could say, nowadays.
Right.
Do you think like something like that could be successful, whether it's in WWE or out in the indies or anything like that?
I mean, I think so. I mean, anything's possible. It's just a matter of if it's done right, if the person doing it buys into it and puts 100% into it. One of the things, again, I say again, but I didn't say it before, but I don't watch the product a lot. If I'm flipping through and I see somebody I know or somebody I like or something catches my eye, I'll watch it for a few minutes. So I don't know everything, but what I do know of, to me, it's very cookie cut. Everyone, in my opinion, wants to be Stone Cold, or the Randy Orton. They all just want to be this badass person instead of just being a character and going with it. So I think characters would make it more fun. I think it would make it more interesting. Yeah, you still need to have those couple of badass guys, but I think that's one of the things that back in my era when we were there, that whole Attitude Era, everyone had an identity or a gimmick that was different from everyone else's. You didn't want to be someone else. You didn't want to act like someone else. You wanted to be you. And we were able to do that. And that's, the Headbangers, we were goofballs. We're dumping wax on our arms and, we're doing all this stupid stuff just because we could. And they gave us the freedom basically to kind of do whatever we wanted. And it's, it was very free that way. And I know now it's a lot of, okay, here's what we want you to say. Back then it was, all right, here's a storyline we're going with, make it you. And we were kind of given freedom to do whatever we wanted. I realize things evolve, things change. I know with WWE having stock now, they have to be a little bit more careful with things. So I think a lot of that factors into it. But I think anything's possible to get over now if you're just able to have time to build it. One of the other things was, we had time to build our characters. You had time to do it. It's like everyone now, and I'm not just talking WWE, I'm just talking in the world general. Everybody wants that instant satisfaction now. Give it to me now. I don't want to wait. I don't want to see the storyline build up. Let's just do it now and get it over with and move on to something else. Everything's so fast paced. Everybody wants it now, especially with social media. You don't have time to build that suspense and really get a character or even a storyline over. I mean, the storylines are huge, and you see it with WWE. It changes from week to week to week. It's like, all right, Goldberg's in now, but he could be gone next week. Or same thing with Brock Lesnar. Or Edge just came back with the Royal Rumble. But how long is he going to be there? So everything's so fast and so instant. It just doesn't have time to really develop. So if they gave it time, I think anything can get over.
Yeah, true. Definitely agree with you. You talked about those returns of, Edge and Goldberg. You guys, when you guys came back and you guys were on SmackDown, you were taking on Rhino and Heath Slater. That was like a big surprise. Like I was so happy to see you guys back in the ring. And, you guys haven't even missed a step. You guys are still going good. How did that even come about? And how did you guys, get that call to, participate in that tag team tournament?
That's one of me. One of my, I mentioned earlier that winning the tag belts was probably one of my top 3 moments. That return was one of my top 3 as well. Yeah. So what happened was so I have a son, my son's 16 now. He's seen me do thousands of indie shows. And I mean, to the point where he could care less. I'll ask him, hey, I'm going to do a show. Do you want to come? And he'll ask me who's going to be there or any of my friends going to watch. If any of his friends are there, he'll go. But if not, then he could care less and doesn't want to go. Hell, at one point, Glenn and I were in a match. We were in the ring. I looked over. He was laying on the gimmick table, sound asleep. So,
man.
So one of the things I always wanted to do was have one time in a WWE ring for him to see me wrestle in a WWE ring. Mm-hmm. So, I used to see Road Dogg all the time doing the shows, doing the indie shows and stuff like that. And we would, talk, and I would tell him that, like, just one time, that's all I want, one time. So then whenever they were town in South Florida, I'd reach out to Hunter and ask, like, can I just come just one show? Like, I'll sign a waiver. I don't want to get paid. Just want one match in a W ring. And he always said no. He's like, can't do it. Insurance purposes, whatever. So, but Brian knew how I felt and what I wanted to do. So when he came up with this whole tag team tournament thing for the belts, he called me. Actually, he texted me and he said, hey, are you available for SmackDown on Tuesday? I texted him back. I go, yeah, okay, who's this? And why are you messing with me?
Man.
Instantly called me. And he's like, Chaz, no. He goes, I'm serious. He goes, we got this idea. We want to bring you guys in. And I'm like, hell yeah, I'm available. Like, so, but what happened is they were wrestling up in, was it Foxwoods or wherever the casinos are up in Massachusetts. In that area there. He called me on Friday. And he called me back Friday and he said, look, he goes, I'm sorry. He goes, I didn't know. You have to have full blood work and a full physical to be able to wrestle there. He goes, we won't have time to get that done for you guys. He goes, I'm going to try and hold the angle over till the following week. He goes, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to. He goes, I'm sorry. And I said, if it's meant to be, it'll be. I go, but I appreciate you thinking of me, Brian. And that was it. I never thought I was going to hear from him about it. So I watched SmackDown just to kind of see if I can get an idea of what the storyline is. And then I'm waiting Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And I'm like, well, guess that's not happening. About 5 o'clock on Friday, I get a call from Howard Finkel. He's like, hey, Chaz, it's Howard Finkel. And I'm like, oh, hey, Howard. He's like, yeah. He goes, I got to set up your travel. He goes, you guys are needed in Dallas next Tuesday. He goes, so where are you flying from? And blah, blah, blah. So it was amazing to go back. To see, old faces, the gimmick guys, the producers, the guys, the camera guys that we used to mess with all the time. They were, some of them were still there. So it was great to see them. It was great to be back in the locker room. But the biggest part for me was not only did my son get to see me in that ring, but he got to watch it live on TV. Nice. And somebody set up the phone. My ex set up the phone on the floor right behind him and videoed him watching me come out. So I have the video of that, and I got to watch his excitement and do it. And the funny part is afterwards, a lot of people on Twitter were giving me a hard time because I did the dab. Like, you guys never dabbed before. Like, why would you do the dab? That's not you. Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, so the story behind the dab is I'm like, you guys don't even know what the hell you're talking about or why I did it. Like, ask me why I did it before you dog me for doing it. So I said to Tyler, my son, I said, what can I do for you. So, you know, the one thing, I'm going to do one thing, it's for you, and that's it. I said, I can do the monkey face. And he goes, no. He goes, the monkey face is for Amy. Amy's my niece. That's where the monkey face came from. Did the monkey face all the time for her. So I said, you want me to do this? You want me to do that? He goes, I want you to dab. And I went, yeah, no, I hate the dab. I'm not doing it. I go, dab, I hate it. And he goes, that's why I want you to do the dab.
Oh, man.
And I'm like, all right, I guess I'm dabbing. And I just was very fortunate. I dove into the ring. I went to that corner. I didn't even say anything to the camera guys. I didn't tell them I was doing it, nothing. And they zoomed right in on me and got the dab. And his expression in the video of me doing the dab was freaking priceless. It was awesome.
Oh, see, that's dope, man. That's dope that you got to do that for your son. You know, after that was, you know, with the reception, you know, the crowd was happy to see you guys as well. You know, was there any hope that this could be more than just a one-off thing?
I guess, you know, they asked if we'd be interested. And of course, you know, you say, yeah, I'm always interested. And it depends on the opportunity. You know, they brought us back a couple times after that. But I don't know. I don't know. You know, there was never really talks of us coming back like for a full-time run or even a part-time run or anything like that. You know, it is what it is. It was what it was. And I got to do it. And I'm happier than shit that I was able to do that.
Yeah, definitely. Now you said you kind of keep up. Do you keep up really too much with what's going on nowadays with like WWE, AEW, anything like that?
I'll turn AEW on if I'm flipping. If I have time, I'll flip. And again, if it's somebody I know, I'll watch a little bit of it. WWE, I follow more on Instagram because I follow certain people on Instagram that I'm friends with. And if they're on, you know, then I'll watch it and I catch little bits and pieces of storylines. Actually, Instagram's the only way that I knew Edge was back and won the Royal Rumble. I was like, oh, wait, the Royal Rumble was last night? Like, I didn't even know it was happening. Yeah, so it's not like one of those things where I sit. I know there's a lot of guys that, you know, that still just sit and they want to watch. And I like the storylines of a match. When you're doing a match, you're telling a good story. The matches aren't like that anymore. And it's just me. I don't know, maybe it's how I was brought up through wrestling of, you know, telling a storyline. I don't like matches that are just spots. When you're jumping around, you just spots, but it doesn't make sense. You can't follow it. So that's probably the biggest reason why I really don't watch it, because I'll watch a lot of the interviews. I like the interviews. I like all that. But the actual in-ring stuff, I'm just not a fan of the style they're doing now. And that's not a knock against anyone. They're all great guys. They're all athletic as hell. It's just not something I enjoy watching.
Yeah, see, you knew my question. That's what I was going to ask. I was going to say, what were your thoughts on the product and what were some things that you liked about it? She asked that well.
I mean, nowadays it's got to be tough. I mean, I've wrestled in front of crowds of 10, 12 people. So it's got to be tough to be out there performing with no crowd, because you feed off that energy of the crowd. Yeah. And not knowing how that whole Thunderdome thing is with the screens, but it sounds like white staticky from home. So it's hard to pick up on that. But for those guys to get out there and work like that in front of basically nobody is great, because that energy you would feed off of everyone is unbelievable.
Yeah, no, I can only imagine. You know, when it comes to you know, like part-timers and you said like the stories and, you know, guys coming, you don't know if they'll be next week. What are kind of like your thoughts on like part-timers being a part of the product? Because, you know, it's very nostalgic. You know, we get to see, you know, a lot of the guys we like, and, you know, you guys are even kind of an example of that too. They brought you guys back for the tag team tournament as well. But, you know, overall, like, kind of how do you feel about that in, you know, wrestling today?
I don't really have a problem with it. I remember back when we were there wasn't a whole bunch of that going on. Yeah. This may sound kind of wrong, and I don't mean it the way it's probably going to sound, but if they got to start bringing in guys to draw money, then maybe the guys that are there got to step up. It's kind of like, you know, everyone hates the Patriots. I see your Tampa Bay jersey. Everyone hates the Patriots. Everyone hates Tom Brady because he's so good. Get better. So, I mean, that's one of the things. And again, this isn't a knock against anybody or anyone that's there, but if they're bringing guys back, they're doing it for a reason. They got to draw money somehow.
Yeah.
They got to draw money. They got to get them back somehow. And they got to get, maybe they're trying to bring older crowd back into it.
Yeah.
But, but then again, you have guys like Edge who will constantly, reinvent themselves. Goldberg's Goldberg. He's not going to do anything different. So just, again, I personally don't have a problem with it. It's kind of cool to see some guys go back.
Yeah.
Wouldn't mind being part of that, to come back and do some more stuff every now and then, because it helps boost your indie bookings and money for your indie shows when I do shows. But yeah, I don't have a real problem with it.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of, and the thing about a lot of these guys, I feel like they can still perform. At least Edge comes back, he puts on great matches as well still. So I enjoy it as well.
Yeah, I mean, Goldberg's still in unbelievable shape. I mean, he still looks like he did before, other than some gray. But I can't say anything about having some gray, so I can't bust him on that. But he still looks great. It's like Glenn and I think we still can go, like we did before. I mean, we're still keeping up with young kids now, and the 25-year-old kids. We're still keeping up with them in the ring. We're still doing everything that we did before. So I think as long as you can go out there and you can perform and do what you do, then yeah, no issue with it at all.
Yeah, definitely. Let me ask you, if you weren't wrestling, what do you think you would be doing?
I probably would have been a teacher.
A teacher? Wow.
Yeah.
Anything special?
No, I was actually going to school for it at the time. It's gonna sound kind of funny. I probably would have been a gym teacher, and I would, because I wrestled amateur from 3rd grade. I probably would have been a coach. I probably would have been a wrestling coach or gotten into baseball coaching, and that's probably what I've done. I still love teaching. I love helping. I like going to Gangrel has a school right down the street here from me, and then when we go do the other indie shows, I like watching the younger guys and helping them out. I like helping. So yeah, I probably just would have been a teacher.
Oh man, that's cool. But outside of wrestling, any hobbies that you have?
I play kickball.
Kickball,
wow. I play very competitive kickball. I was on a very I've been playing for probably 13, 14 years now. My main team, we were called the Meatballs. We won 4 national championships. We won 3 in a row. We went on a 3.5-year run where we didn't lose one game. And we played in some big money tournaments, and in those 3.5 years, we won close to $60,000.
Oh man, that's crazy. See, nobody would have thought.
So I
played kickball.
I've been to Vegas 4 or 5 times to play kickball. I've been all over the United States playing. So I still play. I play a couple nights a week, but I just play in local leagues. I don't travel like that anymore. Yeah, kickball.
Nice. Now, when it comes to like music, are you still a metalhead, or has your taste changed as you've gotten older?
No, my taste is just a big variety. It depends on my mood. I still listen. I'll still put Marilyn Manson on. I'll still put Metallica on. Sublime. Hell, I'll put Billy Joel on. It all depends. It all depends on my mood and where I'm at and how I'm feeling. I'll put classic rock on. But yeah, classic rock, heavy rock. It's all, as long as it's rock, I guess. But yeah, it's a variety depending on my mood. But no, I'll still put on. Especially when I'm going to the gym, it's all Limp Bizkit, Marilyn Manson. When I'm working out, that's all the stuff I like to listen to. Linkin Park, and yeah.
Awesome. And I'll wrap it up with this. Now I know you're not watching much of Ellen, even though you were on there. What's do you have any like favorite shows that you binge or anything like that?
Right now, it's gonna make me sound kind of girly, but right now I'm binging Private Practice on Netflix.
Oh man,
for a while. It just depends. What I really like is like Law and Order. Law and Order is probably one of my favorite to watch. I can binge those. If there's like a marathon of that on USA, I'll just keep it on all day, and I could see the same episode over and over again and just keep watching it. it's just a matter of my interest. I love like FBI shows, stuff like that. I mean, I can't think of any other show right now to give you specifics of shows that I've been watching. I just can't remember them, but
all good, all good. Oh man, I really Chaz, I really appreciate this, man. You're definitely one of the most memorable moments of the attitude and my teenage years for myself. So I really appreciate you doing this, and very happy to have you on today, man.
no problem. Glad to do it, man. I'm happy to do it. Thanks. I had a good time. Bringing up all the memories kind of gets the mind going, so it's fun.
Yeah, definitely. If any fans want to follow you, check you out, can see the journey that you guys are still going on to this day, how can they do that?
You can hit me up on Twitter or Instagram. They're both at Chaz Mosh. And then we got all these cool T-shirts over at ProWrestlingTees.com.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch over there. There's actually a Beaver Cleavage shirt over there too. It says "I Heart Beaver."
Oh man.
So you can hit me up at Chaz Mosh on Instagram or Twitter, ProWrestlingTees.com, and we're always advertising on there where we're going and what we're doing and doing our silly stuff. So it's all good.
Awesome. Perfect. And for us, once again, you can check us out on Wrestling IQ 101 on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. And for this episode, it's Derrick, it's Headbanger Mosh, and we are out.